Welcome to another edition of the Dublin Coffman Marching Band Network. If you like this series, please like and subscribe. Also, if you would like to check out the Dublin Coffman Marching Band Network on LinkedIn and on YouTube, please do so. As well, check out my book called Make Your Footprints. It's a life skills book for young adults. I am here today with Chelsea Tanner, and I'm going to say it again, Dr. Chelsea Tanner, who graduated in 2009 from Dublin Coffman High School. How are you, Chelsea?
I'm good. How are you doing?
It's great. You are coming from Brooklyn, New York, where you are currently auditioning for orchestras. You are teaching flute, and you also are a life coach. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did I get that all correct?
You got it all. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to start. I have been admiring your work that I see through social media in the life coaching. It seems to me that you've had two occupations collide. One is your journey in auditioning for orchestras, and one is life coaching, which is helping people who are navigating this same process that you're going through. Would you take one of those balls and run with it, whether it be the auditioning or the life coaching or both?
Yeah, I'll start with sort of the music side of the career. Yeah, I have been auditioning for orchestras since I think 2014 was my first audition. I've also, had a private teaching studio alongside that while, being in school for a very long time. And so in the music world, it's very easy to say you teach or you perform. And those are the two sort of paths that you are supposed to take, or successful people take, or whatever that might be. And I used to actually be very sort of like embarrassed that I hadn't won a job yet, or hadn't, gotten the teaching job or whatever it is. But, through my experiences with auditioning and such a harsh process, I really did find life coaching and mindset coaching to be so beneficial, not just for me, but understanding my students as a professor as well. So when this came up and I kind of learned these tools, these two worlds for me were just the kind of the recipe for, I don't know if success is the right word, but I think so, even though I haven't won that big audition yet. And I think that, yeah, that's sort of how those two worlds merged for me, almost out of necessity. But when I learned this stuff, I thought everyone needs to know it. It was so helpful for me, and it totally changed the game. Yeah.
So I think a lot of young adults don't really have an idea of what it takes to go through an audition process. Can you break down what it is that you're trying to achieve, and what makes it so difficult?
Yeah, so usually about 6 to 8 weeks in advance of an audition, it will be posted, and you get a list of orchestral excerpts. The latest one that I took was the Pittsburgh Symphony, and they had about 34 excerpts on there. And so managing all of those, making sure they're all in time, in tune with a beautiful sound is just kind of the first step, to be honest. And then it's doing that at any moment, and so really planning what to practice when, assessing all the time what my priorities are in terms of what excerpts I need the most work on. And then also keeping track of all of it, I guess, is a huge thing. But then really doing that in a healthy way, because I think a lot of times in auditions prior, honestly, prior to the pandemic, I would say, oh, I'm not good enough at this thing. And then I'd motivate myself kind of negatively. And that really started to build up. And then, there's a lot of mental preparation that goes along with it too, where, you go to the audition and sometimes they stop you after just a couple excerpts if they don't like your playing. So you might be playing for 5 minutes and you've spent $500 to go to this audition, and it can be a really disheartening process. So yeah, I think that it's one of the hardest things I think that one of them that a human can do. It's really a lot of stress on your mind and your body and your outlook on your career as well. And there's probably 10 of them a year, so it's very competitive. There's usually 100 people in the preliminary rounds, so it's not exactly an easy process, but yeah, I think, and then there are different rounds. There's usually preliminary, semifinal, and final rounds of auditions, and you just either keep going or get cut and find out. Yeah.
Well, that is the competitive environment, and what you're talking about is something that a lot of high school students who are interested in the performing arts don't understand until they start their degree program. That's thank you for sharing that. Now,
Yeah.
while you were getting your doctorate from the University of Texas, you started your teaching career, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right to say that was it Carnegie Mellon that you came back to and started your teaching career?
I actually started between my artist diploma and my my doctorate. I had a year where one semester I taught at Penn State University to fill in for the flute professor. So that was sort of the start of my college teaching career. Yeah.
And so tell us about that journey. You got into college teaching, and you've been a couple of places, but tell us about that part of your profession.
I think that's my true love, to be honest. um, I have I have a lot of sort of pots boiling at the moment, teaching, performing, coaching. But when I am able to sort of mentor and teach people how cool the flute is and like why it's amazing, and just kind of lead them through their own growth through the flute, it's my favorite thing kind of in the whole world. So that really inspired me to look at flute playing not only in this one dimension of I have to be perfect all the time and it has to be exactly right, and it kind of grounded me in a way where, oh, this has another function. This isn't just to be perfect. That's not the point. It's not to prove that I'm good enough, but it's actually a way to communicate. And we say that all the time, but I think through teaching, it's really helpful. It was helpful for me as a performer to really dig into how do I actually do all this stuff, right? How do I actually play this instrument, and how can I convey that to a student in a way that's compelling and interesting and helps them believe in themselves as well. So that was sort of the first taste of it. And then if you're going to go into teaching at the collegiate level, you got to get a doctorate. So I ended up going back to UT Austin. I did 2 years of coursework in one, which was a little crazy, but I thought 10 years of school was enough. And and then I got a visiting professor job at SUNY Potsdam in upstate New York at the Crane School of Music, and I love that job as well. So yeah.
Well, now on to where some of your where I see you the most. It's through your social media presence with your life coaching.
Yeah.
I enjoy your content. Reading your content, you have a very humanistic quality and very heartwarming quality for what you're trying to do and help people with. What is it that you've kind of learned? So you have a life coaching job, but then there is the social media and the way to try to attract people to your business. What is it that you found interesting about walking into the world of social media?
I think the biggest thing is kind of how much it's made me grow as a person. Because putting yourself out there on social media is not easy. It's very, like, I remember the first flute video I posted, I thought I was going to throw up. I was like nauseous. I was like, oh my gosh, what are people going to think? I'm like, what's going to happen? But I think that in that way, and really being able to share more of my journey and, be an example of someone who has degrees from, universities I'm really proud of, and, still not be affiliated with an institution. I've, I had a lot of shame about that for a long time, and putting myself out on social media was hard at first, but then I'm thinking there's probably a lot of people like me out there who don't have an example of that, because we don't want to share the parts that don't look good. And I think that that's been the biggest thing, is being able to learn to put myself out there, but then also take care of myself at the same time. And I think all of the I didn't know what a sales funnel was like 2 years ago. I learned all of that stuff, how I learned so much about marketing and all of that during the pandemic as well. And I think that that's been really helpful and interesting, and makes me see the music world in a different way, but also the possibility of like what, one person can do to help other people. So I don't know if that answered your question, but that's sort of.
What I love is you can tell the growth mindset that you have. That yes, you play the flute, and you show that you're a teacher, but here you are just inventing yourself. I wouldn't say reinventing yourself. There's just so many side things that you have, which is great. It just shows how much you care about all the different parts of your life. It's wonderful to hear. So
Yeah.
now I want to ask you, going back to your high school days, you were one of my first students, if I'm not mistaken. You came in maybe my first year as
Yeah.
being a director, and to say that I have grown too. I know I'm a different person than when you were here. But talk us through a little bit. What was it that the Coffman Band program did for you? Whether it be a senior when you were a freshman, or the leadership roles that you've held, what is it that you took with you that helped you along your journey?
Yeah. I might actually get emotional about this. Yeah, I was a quiet person, very much so. As you probably remember, I didn't talk to anyone. My first 2 years was, but it was like a place for me as a person where both of my parents are musicians, and music always came very easily to me. It was sort of like the thing I was best at. And to have a community that valued that was like, it's sort of indescribable. It really fostered my growth as a person through music, because I didn't have, like, wasn't that good at math or science or whatever. I didn't have that aptitude. So I to have a place where I felt valued was just like an irreplaceable thing. And it really helped me socially. I mean, I remember my best friend, Allie, at that time, Norris, she said, Chelsea, it's really normal to have conversations and talk to new people. And, I met her through band, and we went on the Disney trip, and we were roommates. And, and she said that to me, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll try it. And, here I am posting on social media all the time now. And I think that as a person, for me, the band was like an irreplaceable part of high school. I truly don't know what I would have done without it. And having it be such a strong program too, really, it motivated me to be a better musician, and work toward all those things. So an ensemble, and having all those opportunities was just so amazing. So it was truly just such an amazing experience. And I wanted to be section head so bad, and like squad leader and all of that stuff. And I was just, yeah, that was such an important part of that time for me. Yeah.
Well, one of the questions I love asking is, if you wouldn't mind talking to our kids right now, who are those shy kids, and what is it that that you would tell yourself now that you have the experience and you've been through academia, and now you're out making your living, and you look
Hmm.
back to the shy Chelsea Tanner? What would
Yeah.
Dr. Chelsea Tanner tell freshman Chelsea Tanner about the journey that she's about to go on?
Yeah. I think I first have to acknowledge that it's okay that if you're not wanting to talk right now, right? Like, I think that I, for a long time, did look back and think, like, why didn't I talk earlier? What's going on? Like, why couldn't I just say things to people? And I found that to be really unproductive. So, sort of just accepting where you are, I think, is the first step to, saying, like, well, what if I just talk to one person? Like, let's see what happens. Like, what's the worst that could happen? And I think that band was such a safe space for me to make friends that I didn't feel outside of that hallway, that, you might be surprised just how much you grow when you do talk to people, and it is totally normal. I'm going to say that advice that my friend told me. It's totally normal to talk to people and do it, and it's going to be scary, and take care of yourself while you do that, and just know that it's it's not weird or silly that it to be a shy person, and you know just, yeah, I guess, take care of yourself as you do those things, and have make sure that you acknowledge yourself for putting yourself out there, because it's not a small deal when you're a shy person. So yeah.
Well, Chelsea, thank you so much for spending time with us today. To watch you along your journey, and to admire the hard work and the passion that you bring to your occupation is inspiring to me. And I'm very proud of you. And I want to thank you for spending time with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor to be able to do this.